What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about ChargePoint. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down what's been really coming out associated to the company itself, and whether right now is a good time to buy or not. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off, ChargePoint is down 5.1%. Very volatile day. So $1.90 the low, $2 as the high. 5.5 million shares have been traded within the first about 2 hours of the trading day. 16.5 is the average. A lot of the volume that is done so far today is linked to shorting and algorithmic trading. You can kind of tell that based on the barcoding right here. And so unfortunately, institutions are still overlooking ChargePoint. So last transaction on the secondary market above $100,000 did occur on the 10th, and that was for $105,000. So I'm sure that's confusing a lot of individuals, especially considering ChargePoint has gone on a fairly good run. So over the last 1 month, it is up 29.37%. So a lot of that was just piggybacking off of the broader market's optimism associated to back-to-back rate cuts. So for the September 18th meeting, there is a 93.5% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut, and that is followed by a November 7th 25 basis point cut, and so far a 54% likelihood of that occurring. So all in all, that is what really drove a lot of growth stocks higher. ChargePoint, luckily enough, did piggyback off of that as well. You had shorts returning some shares, so I'm going to talk about that in a second. But it wasn't really institutions that was behind all of this, rather algorithmic trading. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up as far as that. As far as news, though, there was this that came out yesterday morning, but in my opinion, it's a little bit more fluff. A lot of the recent news when it comes down to ChargePoint hasn't really been substantial that you can actually get behind and buy ChargePoint. So it's just been kind of stuck in limbo. As of late for SEC filings, there's just been a couple of Form 4s, the last being on the 11th, so nothing recent, which I do believe I brought up these in my last video. But aside from that, though, there's hasn't really been much coming from analysts either looking at this. So through IBKR, last one was done 21 days ago, $3 buy rating by Benchmark, Michael, who has a 55% success rating, and prior to that it was just encumbered from their earnings. So all in all, it's just kind of stuck in limbo. Nothing really wrong with that, because of course a lot of stocks have made some pretty substantial gains over this last little bit. When it comes down to ChargePoint, I'll give you guys a quick overview of the Elliott Wave technicals. So it does have a pivot point of $1.67. So for as long as ChargePoint is above that, which right now it is anticipated to get between that 256 and 273. So clearly over the last several trading days, just more so consolidation and just piggybacking off the broader market. So I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of that. And as of late, the latest Morningstar report does still show the fair market value for ChargePoint being $2. So all in all, nothing really crazy. Sometimes I just like to look at the news as well, just to get a sense of the broader sentiment, just to see what people are talking about it. And it looks like ChargePoint's not really, like, nobody's really talking about ChargePoint. So kind of it's unfortunate, right? It's just analysts are overlooking it and just institutions overlooking it. It's just a very interesting scenario. Aside from all of that fun stuff, though, going over some data points, shorts are increasing. So they've been kind of very volatile over this last little bit. So 1.51 million shares are being increased today. 28.76% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 112.65 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 13%. Utilization is 89.25. And then short score, so the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening, is 87.63. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the other data points, just compile it all together, and just whether right now is a good time to buy or not. So looking at options, 298,000 within the first 2 hours of the trading day versus 123,000 in puts. So a lot of money is actually getting into ChargePoint through options. 56% of all the options being done so far today are optimistic and bullish, but no doubtably, especially with shorts increasing 1.5 million shares, that's probably them hedging. probably around that $2 strike price as well, just to give you an overview of some of the call options that are being purchased. So you do see $2 being a very strong pivot, and even when it comes to the puts. So $2 is definitely a very strong pivot for ChargePoint. This is the current open interest on the calls. So for this chain, so July the 19th, there's 18,000 at that $2 strike price, and then 31,000 at that $2.50. So no doubtably, market makers and shorts will definitely want to suppress ChargePoint below $2. So it might close exactly at $1.99 because market makers don't want to go to the open market and cover this 18,000 in open interest, which would result in about 1.8 million shares. So all in all, just keep that in mind. But as of right now, with it at $1.97, it is trading between this R1 and R2. So 201 is going to be that next strong resistance / target. Then $1.85 will be that next strong support. The R1 wasn't touched. So generally you can tell that today is more so consolidation, not necessarily a full-blown sell-off. So once again, that's how I like to distinguish that. And looking here, you do see over the last several trading days, like I mentioned, just consolidation. Still though, higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, still above the 50-day moving average, which generally is a very big pivot for ChargePoint. And then aside from that, looking at stochastic, so you do see a bearish deviation, so red line above the white, and number of retail investors have been getting out over this last little bit. And you can kind of tell that based on the momentum indicator. So all in all, I do feel based on ChargePoint, you have a lot of good risk versus reward at this stage for their upcoming earnings, which is slated for September the 4th after hours. You do have analysts becoming a little bit more optimistic. So over the last 90 days, you have seen 5 positive earnings per share revisions. So I think ChargePoint, based on everything, there's a lot more upside versus down. Of course, the broader market with its fears could really pull ChargePoint down, but if you're thinking bigger picture, I think operationally they've improved quite considerably over the last 6 months. So all in all, I do feel that anywhere from these two ranges is a very good buy. So anywhere from this R1 to where we are now, or better yet, this pivot to this R1. But I do feel that these prices, like years from now, people are going to look back and wish that they did buy. So that's just my own interpretation. I'm not a financial advisor. ChargePoint has been extremely volatile over this last little bit. Even looking here over the last 1 year, it is down 76.96%. So there's always been a very big kind of gap between what happens operationally and the share price. So let me know your thoughts on ChargePoint. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Give yourself a shout out if you have been buying, if you've been selling, what have you been doing with ChargePoint. And with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.